3, 2, 1.
My whole purpose for this call is to give business owners like yourself, like myself, insight into the success, the failures, the day-to-day struggles, and the real-life examples of how I've won and lost over the last 12 years of growing my own businesses. It's my hope that you'll engage and ask real questions of myself and my team so that you can avoid the pitfalls, the roadblocks, and the struggles that I've overcome. I want to share with you what I'm doing in my businesses, plus the businesses that I help run across this country. I want to give you the insight that I've learned coaching clients in medical, real estate, accounting, and other professional services, and how we've helped them live the life of a visionary entrepreneur, scale their organizations, and leave a lasting legacy on this world. Hey everybody, welcome back to another Think Big live call. Jared Brader here with Morgan Hutchings, and today we have a very special guest, 13-year business guru, founder and CEO of Review Wave, taking names, taking big, massive action, and growing a culture. Matt, welcome to the show today.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, Matt, just before anybody gets started, I know it's been about 13 years. You've been in business a little bit longer than I have. Watching your growth and watching what you've done with your company is definitely inspirational. We have some great questions today about building a culture, building a big team, and scaling your business. So maybe just take a minute and tell everybody, like, what drives you?
Well, I mean, early on in business, survival was the initial driving force, right? And then, eventually you conquer that mountain, and then you find the next mountain. And about 6 years ago, when I really got serious about business, it was legacy. I looked at my life and I said, what is going to be left when I leave this rock? And I really wanted to make a huge impact. So we pivoted in a lot of activities and services, and now we're helping tens of millions of patients all across the U.S. and Canada, and something to be very proud of.
That's fantastic. And I think for everybody watching, right, that is pretty damn big. 10 million patients helped. And I know you have probably a background in a family history in chiropractic. Is that correct?
Yep. Parents were both chiropractors. I grew up working in their practice from the time I was old enough to answer the phone, and high school kind of running the practice. Went off to college, made it about 6 weeks before I realized this was definitely not for me, and walked out of math class one day and never went back. Hit the road, sales and marketing, and never looked back.
Yeah, fantastic. We have one of those on our team here at Aud Experts too. Left the classroom and never went back. So definitely an inspiration to see what you've done with it, what you've done in chiropractic with it. And I know you've kind of crossed niches now. So is there a few that you can share with us in addition to audiology?
Yeah. So obviously we're with chiropractors, we're with audiologists, working with optometrists, and also working with dentists. Those are the main fields. We've got some because we integrate with electronic health record softwares, and because sometimes they have other verticals. We might have podiatrists or various medical clinics, et cetera, but we don't track it as granularly as that.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned something I think all entrepreneurs, even in the medical sphere, say, which is that starting point of survival. And I think last I heard, you're like 70 plus employees. You have 2 different headquarters in the country. Like, how do you go from survival to that magnitude of scale?
It's move fast is one way. But no, I mean, when I first started out, I had just finished reading The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. And I thought to myself, that sounds amazing. Let me figure out what my muse is, which is what he calls it, to, create a business that creates a lifestyle. And, I created that, went through some ups and downs. Certainly, it was the real estate crash, and, we actually lost our house, and, we were completely upside down. And so survival was, this company's got to go so I can turn my finances around. I can feed my family. There was definitely, more month than there was money. And, Visa and MasterCard said, just leave home without it. Right. And so it was, it was survival mode at a very, very high level. I don't recommend that destination for most people, but at the end of the day, it definitely has helped make me and shape me into who I am, and the amount that I can handle and confront, because I had to confront a lot of life lessons through those times. And being an entrepreneur is doing personal development and hopefully having a financial agreement connected to it, but there's no guarantee.
Yeah, definitely. And I can share that story. I think every business owner that'll either, watch this down the road is going to understand those struggles, right? Whether it's a cash flow struggle, whether it's a debt struggle, or whether it's just building a great team kind of struggle. And I think your wife plays a decent part in the business. Is that correct?
Yeah, she's phenomenal. She's just kind of ended up in personnel her whole life, and so she's she makes up in handling things like benefits and payroll and all those things that I just don't want to have to look at or hear about. So it's a great team activity.
Sure. And so where does your passion lie in it? Like tell us how Matt got to today.
I mean, part luck, part determination, just unwillingness to give up. But really, I've invested heavily over the years in my education. So I say I walked out of college because college wasn't for me, but in the past 13 years, I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars hiring coaches, doing masterminds, everything that I could think of in order to figure out what I need to know to get to the next level. And there's always a next level. So recently in one of the books I was reading, it said a definition of the game. A lot of people play the game to win, but the game of entrepreneur is actually playing to continue the game, which was an interesting viewpoint, because there really is no end. If you love this game, you just try to play at bigger and bigger levels. But just a little bit success, a little bit of success, and finding my way. I mean, we fought back through. I mean, we had no credit. I had to show my business bank account to have enough money to let somebody lease me a house so I could put a roof over my family's head. And we lived on a cash basis for many years because we were destroyed credit wise. So I had to build that back up. So it was, let me get out of debt, and then it was okay, let me build my credit back up, and then eventually it was all right. Now we've got some credit. Let's buy a house, and just kind of always having goals. What's the next step, and always having the big dream of where do you want to be one day, right? But you gotta celebrate the little goals on the way, and not make less of them. And as long as you move fast enough between those little goals, one day you turn around and you realize you're actually living your dream, and didn't realize that you got there, and now you've got an even bigger dream.
I love it. And in the last few weeks on our show, we've talked a lot about those inflection points and those moments in time. From what I know about your background, right, you have a family history of chiropractic. You started generating leads, doing some digital media, started building reviews and reputation softwares. I call you a technology, guru, because I think that's the core of what you're doing with solving problems for small business owners. And now you have some automations in your system. So is it fair to say that you found a way to solve problems along the way?
Oh, absolutely. The funny thing is about that, when I opened the first company to start building websites and doing marketing, I had never even bought a domain, let alone built a website or even written a single line of code. So I had to solve all those problems along the way. How to do those things, how to be successful at those, and people don't value the free information that's out there enough, right? Podcasts like this, hearing different things, different books, you can pretty much Google anything and find somebody's put out an article on something. And then if you can go far enough down the rabbit hole, for me, it's like if I find something, that sounds like it might work and I test it and then it does work, then I go back to the person that said that. And then I want to know, who did that person learn from? And I just dig. And eventually, I got to the Dan Kennedy world. I got to the Infusionsoft world. Uh, I'm in a number of different masterminds now. And, it's just finding people that have kind of walked a similar path before you, if you listen to what they say and you can read between the lines and you can learn those gems, I mean, it can save you years and years of your life, not having to reinvent the wheel, but just being able to pick up and run with the ball.
Well, and I love that because as a, we're a coaching group. We're primarily in audiology. We have some accountants, lawyers, real estate agent, right? We're crossing those niches as well. And what we're finding is small business problems are small business problems, right? The niche is a little less important to the principles. And so I heard you say earlier, invest in masterminds, invest in coaching, which right is music to our ears because that's what we do. And we likewise say invest in great vendors and great tools. And I think that's, at least that's what I know you do, right? You solve problems, you have a tool, it's a great software. Is there any other nuggets? I also heard reading. Is there anything else that stands out? And then I'll kind of let Morgan ask his questions about the people side of business and growing and scaling toward your vision.
Yeah, I mean, there honestly is so much. I mean, I'll tell you, I would go to work from 8 to 5. I would go home. I would be the family man from 5:15 to 9:00, 9:30 at night. Put the kids to bed, and then I would be researching man from 10 p.m. till 2 a.m. Right, and I put in hours and hours. I mean, I put in 20 hours a week, let's call it, for many years at night, just continuing to figure out, how do I solve these problems? And so now, we've built a business that, I mean, people will look at and go, oh, well, that was an overnight success, but I mean, this is decades in the making. You gotta play the long game. You gotta invest in yourself. That's, I think, the single biggest thing. If you want to be a successful entrepreneur, that's the big investment to make.
Well, and I think that's perfect because we have the signs behind us today of, hustle and grind and execution. And right, like I said, our goal here as coaches is to compress time, is to share with other small business owners, medical practice owners, how do you compress time? How do you learn from my mistakes and my successes? And the pillars that we build around are mindset, culture, science or specialty, and marketing, right? Those are the 4 pillars that I've had to kind of build my businesses on. Sounds like you're doing very much so the same thing there. And you need sharp and very specific tools to accomplish that. So I'm glad to have you introduce you to whoever might watch this and our group. And if there's not much more, Morgan, I'll let you ask your questions about people and scaling and building.
Yeah, Matt, especially for somebody like you that has been through such hardship, right? The ups and the downs, the house, everything you've been through. One of the things I see entrepreneurs, business owners struggle with a lot is this idea of trust. And I looked at your Instagram really quickly, and it's really quick. I got the idea that Matt's into leadership, right? And so I got this very quick introspective. I got the idea that you care about your people, right? And I think Jared mentioned 70 plus or minus a few people on the team. Everything you've been through, how do you give trust back to the team? How do you hire people knowing that, years ago you were in this situation of no home for your family and building it back up from nothing, and now you're going to turn it, what you've turned it into, you're going to turn it back over to the people. How do you trust that after everything you've been through?
Well, I mean, the condition I was in, with the finance and all this stuff, that those were my mistakes. They weren't anybody else's. So it's not that I ever lost the trust in other people. But I think the main principle for me in building, the business over the last 6 years with the very expansive, team growth and the culture, is simply, investing in my people. So, I've invested in myself, and now, I know to scale, I have to teach them to be a better version of themselves. I have to build whatever it is up, whether it's, the sales position or the support position, build it, give it to them, and trust them to be better than I was, and push them to be better than I was. And, with that, I mean, we didn't have a lot of money to scale this business. It was brand new. It wasn't doing a lot of money in the beginning. So, I mean, books are cheap. We've got an Audible account. We have our staff listen to books in there. And then I just, every single book I bought, I just brought it into the office, and I would tell staff to read different books. Because we're into patient relationships, customer service. Joey Coleman's a good friend of mine, Never Lose a Customer Again. Great book. We make every single one of our staff read that book, and we give that book to every single one of our customers now. And just to get the right viewpoint of keeping that retention. It's mind blowing that, in actuality, less than 6% of patients that are in the EHR are active on a monthly basis in chiropractic, where you should be coming once a month. I haven't run the stats on audiology yet, but we've got about 5% of the chiropractic industry using our platform. And I mean, that's a mind-blowing number. You know, if only 6 out of every 100 new patients that you have to bring in the door are going to stay active, that's a really hard business model to sustain and grow. Whereas if you could just change that, you know, a little bit, you know, I mean, the numbers will be massive. And that's really what our platform automates and helps them do. It helps improve that patient education, patient retention, patient experience, et cetera, to stabilize that and make those numbers go up.
And everything that you said that's been a factor of your success, Matt, from the books, the podcast, the masterminds, the research, everything that you've done, it also sounds like in the position you're in now with these employees and the culture that you currently have, you want that same thing. You're expecting the same thing. So are you investing above and beyond for your people? You're sending them to masterminds. What are they into nowadays?
Yeah, so they all have books that they read. You know, we do a training every single Monday. The last 15, 20 minutes of our team huddle for the week is some sort of training. Last week we did a training on budgeting. You know, a lot of our guys are young and you know, they're looking at buying houses and looking at doing different things. But, you know, today, you know, you don't learn how to budget. You don't learn how to balance a checkbook. You don't learn, you know, basic life skills. And so, you know, we're even providing those, which seem like not a standard thing that a business would try to train them on. But I know the more stable I can make my guys, you know, the better they're going to be in life, the better they're going to be here. And there's a story, you know, where the CFO comes up to the CEO and says, you know, you want to invest, you know, $10,000 in the team. What if they leave? And the CEO turns to the CFO and says, what if I don't invest $10,000 and they stay?
Yeah.
Right? You don't want the people to stay if they're not getting better, right? If they're not getting better, you know, what value are you giving them? You know, so, you know, one of my other just absolute things that I live by, it was either Jim Rohn or Zig Ziglar said, you know, if you help enough people get what they want, you will have everything that you want. And a lot of people will look at that as, you know, well, if I help enough customers get what they want, then I'll have everything I want. But why are you excluding your team from that? Like if I can help, you know, 100 people who have, you know, 100 families, you know, who, you know, are in, you know, various towns, you know, the ripple effect of helping each of our staff become better versions of themselves is you can't even measure it, but you know, we see it in, you know, their spouses, you know, getting better jobs because their spouses are also reading the books that we recommend and, you know, moving up the corporate ladders in their other jobs and things like that. So it's an important part. It's what I built the culture on is investing in them and making them better versions of themselves.
Did you, Matt, I mean, years ago, did you realize how important culture was? How along the process did you realize that the culture of the business really was the foundation? When did you realize that? And then, you know, any advice you have for anybody that's young and upcoming or the first time entrepreneur or they're restarting their life, like what advice do you have on the importance of culture?
Yeah. So, you know, when I decided to build a big company, so I kind of went from not solopreneur. I mean, I, you know, had, you know, two to 3 staff at any given time, mostly with digital agency in the early years. And then, you know, when I decided to build a big business, it was like, okay, well, this is going to be a different model. So we definitely have to invest in them. We definitely have to figure out, you know, what the culture looks like. And so I said, well, let me look at all the jobs I've ever had and what did I hate about those jobs? Like, how was I treated? What was the various things? I don't have a lot of money to give them, but I can give them better working conditions. I can give them, you know, some of my knowledge. I can, you know, what were the things that I could do? So, you know, from the very beginning, we didn't offer a lot of money. You know, I mean, our first hire was at $15 an hour. And I mean, that's not a lot of money in California. I mean, it's certainly not the lowest and it's not minimum wage, but it's definitely not a lot. You know, but, you know, that individual now is, you know, really taking him under my wing. You know, he makes 6 figures a year and, you know, is now taking college classes at night. And, you know, I mean, his life has changed forever. You know, he's been with me almost since day one. So, you know, investing in them is crucial in building the culture. But then also, there was a guy, Vishnu, who started Mind Valley, and I actually followed a lot of his stuff on YouTube and whatnot. And he talked a lot about culture. and he had like, he had really sexy names for everything. Like he had the Hall of Love or something for his, where he had his big team meetings, and he had love sacks in there and all this stuff. And I mean, granted, he was in like a third world country where, you know, that entire building probably cost 10 grand or something. So some of it was easier, but I mean, you know, he had cool things that I thought like that would be a fun company to work for. And so, you know, creating a fun company was, you know, always, you know, part of the vision, and the legacy was, you know, somewhere that would be really, really exciting to work, and people would enjoy it. And, you know, when I just did the last round of interviews with our team, every single one of them almost was like, you know, I really want to tell you, like, I enjoy coming to work. This is the first job I've ever had that I actually enjoy coming to work.
Well, and I've been there to your California headquarters, and, you know, I think you had a chiropractic table there so people could get adjustments. I remember, you know, a little bit laid back, more casual work attire, standing desks, a lot of windows. I mean, just being in that atmosphere would definitely be different than a typical technology job or business or commercial job. So I definitely felt that for the short interaction when I walked into HQ.
Yeah.
Do you, Matt, do you
By
have any
design.
thoughts on anybody that's looking for people, right? This is a key topic I get from like almost every business owner I've spoken to in the last 6 months has said, I can't find good people. I can't find good people. I can't find good people. Do you have any high level, when you're looking for a potential new employee, are you looking at schooling? Are you looking at personality? Are you looking at the way they dress? What's most important to Matt?
Yeah. So first off, if you're not finding good people, you haven't defined what a good person is. So you don't even know what you're looking for yet. Because when you write the ad to try to attract the person, you have to write the ad for that person, right? If you're just like, I need a receptionist, and you're like, this boring ass reception job, you know, with all the generic, like, you know, stuff in it, it's like, forget about it. You're not going to find any good people because you don't even know, you know, what you're trying to find, right? So really ask yourself, you know, hey, if I found the perfect X, whatever job you're trying to fill, what would they look like, right? You know, I mean, I even struggle with it sometimes. So I don't know what the perfect CMO looks like. I'm trying to figure that out, and until I do, I'm not going to run an ad because it's silly, right? But you know, the minute we dialed that in, you know, we really found the right people. They succeed faster. They're happier, etc. The interview process, I'll tell you, early on, the interview process was group interviews. And it was like, you know, fire hose style. So I ran an ad, I'd get 15, 20 people. We literally had a flex space. So it was like a garage type thing, basically feeling, which they were supposed to give me polished concrete floors. But what they actually did was paint the floors gray. So, I mean, you kind of get like, it looked cheap. It did not look, you know, good. And so anyway, I put them on the couch, and then I would just fire off questions. You know, do you know how to use a Mac? You know, what's your favorite sport? What's your favorite movie? And I would just ask random things that people wouldn't be prepared for necessarily, because I wanted to understand, you know, if a client asks you a question that you're not ready for, how are you going to act, right? I had people that finding our old office was hard. And so there, 2 or 3 people would walk in late, and I would kick them out immediately. And the rest of them would all sit up a little bit faster, be a little bit more, you know, proper sitting, because they knew I was serious, right? And even, you know, one of my guys who now runs the Texas office, I didn't even call him back. I was just so busy, I just didn't have a chance yet. So he called. He's like, "Dude, do I get the job or what?" And I was like, "Yep, come here on Monday. You start then." You know, and so in the beginning, it's just he reached back, nobody else did, right? So it was like, I did like him, but you know, it was that last call that he made that pushed it over the edge. Now we're much more mature, and you know, we definitely do interviews for culture fit. You know, for prior experience is always a bonus. I don't care anything about college. You know, I mean, it can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing. You know, it's what you do with it, right? I mean, you could have studied, you know, under the greatest of great marketers or whatever, but if you don't know how to use it, you're still worthless to me, right? So it's just a matter of, you know, can they use the experience they've had? You know, and you know, in the beginning, you know, culture was like, you know, when we could afford to, you know, we brought in lunch on Mondays, and everybody thought that was amazing. And then, you know, eventually, you know, we added something else. But we were also just a tight little group stuck in 1,300 square feet of flex space. So you just kind of get to know each other. We would hang out. I had barbecues at my house, in the backyard, and we all became really, really great friends. You can only do that when you're like sub 15 staff, though, right? Once you get above 15, it starts to you get groups within the groups. Some people don't like to do barbecues, so it just things kind of change. But for us, I had my dogs at the office all the time. So if you weren't a dog lover, then you probably weren't going to want to work with us. If you look at our website today, almost every single one of our staff profiles on the About Us page has their dog with them in their, team photo, right? We've always tried to have fun. That's one of our core values. Describing your core values gives you somewhat of what to look for, right? And in the beginning, that's just really mostly about who you are as a person, as an entrepreneur, and how you want your business to go. More recently, I just read you are you are what you do, or I forget the exact title. Anyway, it basically, it rocked my world. I'll pull up the title here. It rocked my world because, basically talked about all the past, it gave a bunch of history lessons, which were absolutely amazing. Everything from, slaves being freed to, negotiations. What you do is who you are. Ben Horowitz, he's a very famous VC these days. Anyway, it made me realize that we have core values that are actually hurting us now, right? So the core values that helped us at a certain point are now actually starting to hurt us. And now we have to pivot and we have to reinvent ourselves and look at, because some of the core values you have adverse effects that you don't realize until you get big enough. And so what works to go from 0 to 100 is not going to be the same thing that works to go from 101 to 1,000, and then to go from 1,001 to 3,000. You just have to continue to evolve as a person and be really ready to pivot and continue to grow as a person. Because if you're not growing, then you're not finding these books or these changes that they already know you need to make. People have already done. Look at Elon Musk. Look at what he's built. So, none of us are at that level. So certainly at least one person has done, better in business than we have. So what lesson can we learn from him? What lesson can we learn from other people? Ben has sold companies, bought companies, flipped companies, all kinds of stuff. So that was an amazing book.
So I think, Matt, I have two questions real quick. Is one on when you were smaller and you had these barbecues and you had some really good friendships to now, right? It's impossible, I would say, for you to have that same level of connection with 70 people or in the future. So I want to know a little bit about personality and how you deal with good workers who don't have the same personality. They're great workers, they do their job, everything's good, but they're not dog loving barbecue friends, right? That's one question. And the other one, of course, I think you said it there, you can always learn a nugget. Like I said, our job here is to compress time to share a blueprint that's worked for small businesses, my small business, your small business. So I love that. I love the idea of mentoring, leveling up, and learning from somebody in the future. So tell me a little bit about that personality question.
Yeah. So, the first thing you got to realize is they're watching your every move. You can see I've got a t-shirt on, I got some Chucks on. If I wear black Chucks, jeans, and t-shirts to work every day. If I show up and I'm wearing blue Chucks, they're like, oh my God, what happened? What's going on here? Right? Like something's changed, right? So they're always watching, they're watching every move. And so, you have to be that leader that they want to follow, right? And so you have to ask yourself, who is that person? Am I truly that person? Or do I need to grow into that person? One of our core values is learn, and that's LURN: love, understand, respect, and nurture. And that goes for our staff, that goes for our clients, and it goes for that, it goes for anybody that we, come into contact with. So, understanding them, understanding what their goals are, and putting out there, this is a book that you should read to achieve that goal, and just caring about them as individuals and not looking at them as something less than a human. We're
And
all
that
here on the
does-
same rock. We're all trying to survive, you know?
Yeah, and that to me definitely crosses over to alignment, right? Aligning their personal goals with your company goals and your vision. I love that aspect. But like, do you have that person that like you wouldn't drink a beer with, right? But is a great worker, or you wouldn't go to a picnic with, but is a great worker? Is there any personality story of like, we're just not the same people, but we both do our role and we both do it damn good?
I mean, I would say no for me. There's not a single person on my team that I wouldn't sit down and have a beer with or go to a barbecue with. You know, I love them all. Certainly, I think they might say differently. They might be a little scared of me sometimes. You know, I've been accused of being intimidating in just the general way I hold myself. And, you know, I mean, that's partly because I grew up in New York and partly because I have to negotiate, you know, a $7 million lease for a building, and I have to know how to, you know, hold myself in that scenario. And not a lot of people, you know, have ever done something like that. So, you know, caring about them, the people that I wouldn't aren't with us anymore, and I think they self-sort, you know. And there's been some good people that were here for a little bit and they're not here anymore. And it's not because they're not good people. It's just their, you know, their super highway of life, you know, took a different turn and they moved on. So, you know, I would say that there's not a single person that was here that was truly part of the team for, you know, more than, you know, a month or two that isn't here anymore that I wouldn't sit down and have a beer with either, you know. I don't fault people for moving on. If something else is better for them, then I want them to do that. You know, like, why hold somebody back?
Sure.
Absolutely. What's next for you, Matt? It sounds like you're already at a point in your life that you're ultra successful, but I also heard you say, you know, if you're not growing, you're dying, and you've subscribed to that philosophy. So are you comfortable sharing what's next for Matt?
Yeah. So, I mean, right now we're in the middle of doing a Series A round. We've got a lot of people interested in investing in our company. And, you know, with that, we want to buy up a bunch of other companies. So that's a new chapter of my life, if you will. I've never bought another company, so I'm excited to get into that pool. But, you know, we're at 3,400 locations, or 3,400 clients, I should say, over 5,000 locations across the US and Canada. You know, we want to be at 10,000 clients and, you know, 15 to 20,000 locations, you know, in the next 12, 18 months. And, you know, we're diving real hard into optometry and dental. We're going into a lot of enterprise stuff that we haven't really played with. And, you know, the the game plan is really exciting. We're bringing on a lot of people. We're at 70-ish right now. We should be at, you know, 120 to 150 by the end of the year. We've really dialed in the processes for training, and, you know, we've got, you know, platforms built out inside of Kajabi for key positions so they can go in and do training. And then they've got, you know, different roadmaps on how to hit certain metrics to increase their pay and do things. So we've done a lot of organization over the last 6 months to really be ready to ramp up. So, you know, we've been on the Inc. 5000 at least the last 2 years. I expect in another month or two to be confirmed for a third year in a row. But I don't, you know, we're not slowing down. I expect, you know, 4, 5, 6, 7 years in a row to continue to top that list, and, you know, just keep building out the teams. We got 10,000 square feet here in California. We got 20,000 in Texas. We can certainly hold, you know, 200 or 300 staff in there. And in our Texas office, we have the entire third floor, the top floor of a 60,000 square foot building. And part of our deal is if we outgrow the top floor, we can start taking over parts of the second floor, eventually the entire second floor, and, you know, just keep moving down. So, you know, we've got an opportunity to control 60,000 square feet there, which obviously is 500, 600 team members, et cetera. So lots of big things, not slowing down at all. If anything, you know, moving faster and doing bigger things.
I love it. So Matt, specifically, you mentioned two things I think are great. Like you're swimming in some big ponds, right? Like when you look at the size of audiology and then you compare it to the size of chiro or dental, like what's the magnitude of scale there between the two? Like for everybody listening, like you're playing in a big ocean.
Yep. Well, now that we're going across, it's a really, really big ocean. Audiology is, whatever, 12 or 14,000. Optometry is, 40-ish thousand. Chiro is 60-ish thousand. Dental is like 150,000, in the United States alone. So, you add all those up, we've got
Sure.
potential of, 300,000 or,
Yeah,
something in that range. And then we can continue to go podiatry and, all these
Yeah.
other verticals. So, yeah, I mean, we want to basically give all patients across all verticals the ability to have the type of healthcare that they want, have a non-confrontational way to give feedback about it. And, when a provider is really, really good, a great way to, refer your friends and family to them. And that's what our software does.
And I just wanted to give everybody like that scale, right? Because you're talking about massive growth, thinking very big, a strong mindset, a deep culture, like, and where you're going with it, right? You're thinking big. Another one you mentioned is enterprises, and in our group, right, we'll talk specifically about your top influences, your physicians, your local estate planning attorneys, right? We're talking about getting to other lists, right? Other influencers that could help grow your business. So when you talk enterprise, like you're talking about signing one deal with a group that has many, many locations, right? And so the amount of work, but then the level of impact that has on your organization.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, we've done deals with, a dozen locations. We've done deals with 100 locations. I've got one deal that I did that's over 1,500 locations. And so, obviously if you can do, one or two of those 1,500 locations a year, it's significant growth. And so we're going to be putting a lot more focus on there. But yeah, it's a lot more of a mature sales team, sales cycle, and a lot longer runway. And then a lot more demand on what the product can do from an enterprise client than a one location, mom and pop, kind of gig, which there's nothing wrong with. I love every single one of them, but it's just when you get into corporate and you got boards and you got, committees and you got people demanding things work a certain way that wasn't necessarily built for, but that's the way they do it. It's a tougher play.
Awesome. I love it. Anything in building that team, like your right hand, your left hand, your wife's involved, right? How did you get that team to kind of execute on this big vision? Any specific, you mentioned clarity earlier. Is there any specific, are you very specific with roles and responsibilities? Are you very specific on the vision? How did you bring alignment to the team to get them row faster in your direction?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, shared the vision often. When they actually bought into it, I'm sure it's different for each and every one of them. I think that they all thought there was something special happening, and they each had a vision of their own, and they saw that they were young in the company, whether they were the second hire or the 12th hire, or even the 30th hire, or even the 71st hire is still very young in a company that's going to grow to 400, 500, 600, team members. And each one of them is going to have an opportunity. This company is definitely not going anywhere. One of my mentors, Perry Marshall, guy who wrote the book on AdWords, #1 book on AdWords, he basically said, if you're going to build a business, how do you build a business that lives over 100 years? And, that's stuck with me for many, many years, because if you think about it, most companies don't last 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, let alone 100 years. And so, building this company, this culture and the vision, the company will survive me. The company will, people will retire after having worked decades at this company, and they'll retire well, and they'll have, benefits in 401k, and, they'll have been treated well their entire career. And that's something that, is very exciting. And I think, people want to help build that, somewhat even more than the idea of building, the buying into, helping chiropractors or helping audiologists, individually. They built into being part of something that was bigger than themselves, which is what the company is.
I love it. So, I mean, I appreciate your time today. Somebody that, started about the same time, maybe a year earlier than I did, growing and scaling like crazy, taking massive action, lifting up others. I think those are all great examples, great stories of, what we want to do for our coaching members, small business owners across the niches. Amazing success, Matt. I love watching it. Is there a way for people that want to know a little bit more about your company to reach out if you're in the medical sphere and want to connect?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if they're in one of those verticals, they use an electronic health records, they jump on reviewwave.com and book a free demo and talk to, one of our great team members to see how that might help. Anybody else who just wants to, follow the journey, I post pretty regularly on Facebook. And so you can check me out there. Just my name, Matt Prados. But yeah, hopefully I've inspired a few listeners to, do big things. I know that definitely podcasts like this have helped me along the way. So happy to give back and appreciate you having me.
Yeah. Any last things you want to drop or share that we didn't cover?
My favorite definition of an entrepreneur is somebody who jumps off the cliff and figures out how to build the airplane on the way down. And so, the jujitsu saying, of becoming comfortable in the uncomfortable, is absolutely huge, for big success. And, it's not right for everybody. And, don't compare yourself to people that are doing massive things like Elon Musk or whatever, because, they're also, doing things you're not willing to do. So if you want to compare to them, then you got to be willing to risk it all. I mean, Elon risked every single thing to build his first company, and then every single dollar from that he risked on Tesla multiple times, then on SpaceX, et cetera, et cetera. So, if you really want to be big, you gotta be willing to risk it big, and not everybody has the stomach for that. But just compare yourself to your goals, and keep hitting whatever that next mountain is, and you'll find the next goal on the other side of it.
I love it. Matt Prados, CEO, founder, Review Wave, a company that will be here 100 years from now, long after us. Thanks for joining us, Matt. Looking forward to collaborating in the future.